Speaking of the negative, boys, the Edmonton Oilers. Finally, the Edmonton Oilers have done something, as they have fired head coach Dave Tippett and assistant coach Jim Playfair of Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt fame. Again, still the best clip of all time, Jim Playfair when he was a junior level coach. Look it up. It's
they
fantastic.
got rid of Jim Playfair as well?
Yes.
Father of, Letterkenny star Dylan Playfair?
I do believe so, yes.
That's a name that would always pop up in franchise mode for me at drafts.
That would be the reason.
Oh, man.
So Dave Tippett is fired. This is big enough news in and of itself, but then there's some other details to this. Connor McDavid will now have his 4th coach in 6 seasons. Abysmal, right there. Like that's all you need to know about how poorly the Oilers organization has been run, not just for the past 6 seasons, but beyond, but especially now in these past 6 seasons, that you are now going to have your 4th head coach for the league's best player. Absolutely horrific. The other 3 coaches, Todd McClellan, of course, of Sharks fame, went 123, 119, and 24 in the regular season, was 7-6 in the playoffs. Ken Hitchcock, who coached less than 26, 28, and 8 in the regular season. And then Dave Tippett had a 95, 62, and 14 regular season record, but was 1-7 in the playoffs. Again, this while having Connor McDavid and, of course, not to mention Leon Draisaitl on your team. Absolutely horrific. We talked about it to death.
It's hard to coach your way out of a horrible cap situation. And that's what it is. They're in a horrible, terrible, terrible cap situation because they've made terrible trades and signings. It has nothing to do with McDavid or Draisaitl. As the media is trying to, frame it as, it's that, clearly Connor McDavid isn't listening. They brought in this great defensive coach. Why isn't he playing better? Connor McDavid, if
Coach Killer.
Yeah. If
Connor
you have Connor McDavid,
driveway.
stop. You need to get a coach to fit his play style and build the team around him. Yes, everyone should play a little bit of two-way, but people trying to act like, oh, he should skate fast, back checking. The man carries your team kicking and screaming into contention every year. Show a little fucking respect. It's insane that you now want him to also be a Patrice Bergeron when he's already essentially the next Gretzky or Lemieux. He's already doing that. And you want him to also do that. You expect the fucking world out of this guy. You're already getting the universe. It's insane. You need a coach around him. Again, it's not the issue. Any coach that's not doing too good, you're not going to find a coach that can because their team is poorly built. And the media will not ever, ever go after management because they want that access.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
100%. And that's why you're seeing the articles now about, Connor McDavid and his responsibility behind this move. So, and we saw that. That's exactly where I was going. And again, that's why it's always the players that are pissy. It's the players' fault. It's not management. We can't risk our access and our relationship with these teams. We gotta smooch and we gotta schmooze. It's ridiculous. And this is again
player making millions, the ownership making billions.
Oh yeah, at the same time, it's like shit. Why give a damn if you're still making money? Which is, again, the dumbest thing you could possibly think of, because you could make even more money by marketing Stanley Cup champion Oilers, but I digress. In terms of this team and where they're currently at, I mean, you could make the argument that, hey, it's not necessarily Dave Tippett's fault, but again, he wasn't a great coach. He wasn't. He wasn't a great coach. I think every Oilers fan can tell you that. He might not have been the direct problem. Ken Holland is a completely washed-up general manager. End of story. And this is a team that expected to overperform what, if you look at their roster, that team is. They are not the Tampa Bay Lightning. Fuck, they're not the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're not. They never have been. It's the goddamn meme. Wait, we're shit? Yeah, you always have been. Make that goddamn meme for hockey memes. Get a bunch of clicks. Do it. I mean, we've talked about it to death, their bottom six, their defense pairings. It's the same shit. Yep. And now you have Jay Woodcroft taking over as the interim head coach. He has been coaching the AHL's Bakersfield Condors for the past 4 seasons. Was a former assistant coach with the Oilers, former assistant coach with the Sharks back in the day. Started off as a video coach with the Red Wings back in 2005.
I was wondering why the fuck I recognize that name. I was like, why do I recognize that name?
Yeah, he was with the Sharks from 2008 to 2015 before he switched over to Edmonton. I think directly with Todd McClellan, actually. I think that timeline lines up, doesn't it?
Yeah, because then we got DeBoer and we went to the Cup Finals and lost. That's what DeBoer does. Gets you to the Cup Finals, loses, and then 3 years later he's gone.
So Woodcroft's an interesting one. He's not the oldest guy in the world. I mean, he's 45 years old. Has a Stanley Cup with his time as a Red Wing. Assistant coach now, replacing Jim Playfair, is former NHLer Dave Manson, who has also been around the block. He was an assistant coach as well in Bakersfield behind Woodcroft. So we'll see. Again, we said, for the love of God, you got to change something. That team's still not great on paper, but in theory, you should have the pieces for them to perform above the sum of their parts because of the high-level talent on that squad. But I still don't know, right? And I mentioned the standings earlier, and the Edmonton Oilers right now are, let's take a look, at 44 games, they have 49 points. The second wild card spot belongs to Anaheim, who have 55 points in 48 games. So the Oilers have 4 games at hand, but are 6 points back in the Anaheim Ducks for the second wildcard spot right now. It is not an insurmountable lead with half a season to go for them to get back into the playoffs.
I'm just surprised.
So, I mean, hey, better late than never in terms of the change, but...
Sorry
to cut you
no,
off,
no, that's fine. I was just trying to throw in some shade. I thought I had a good breaking point to do that. I was just saying, yeah. You know, I'm surprised Evander Kane didn't completely fix their situation. I was told he would.
Okay,
I was told he
would. Let's play the how many points does Evander Kane?
He probably has a decent. I mean, he's on a team with McDavid and Draisaitl. I would be shocked if he's not per game.
You got
4 points in 5 games for Evander Kane.
Yeah, I mean,
point per game almost. Yeah.
Just there's
on a line with Draisaitl and 16 points in 44 games. Kyler Yamamoto.
They've lost twice. I don't even remember.
It's just insanity that this is a team that can run McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and right now they're not in a playoff spot halfway through a season. It's unacceptable. And I hope for Oilers fans, you miss the playoffs. I think that's the best thing that could happen to you. Because if you miss the playoffs, I would like to think that Ken Holland would get fired. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's secure no matter what. But the best thing right now that could happen to the Edmonton Oilers is that Ken Holland gets fired. Period. He's absolutely past his fucking expiration date as an NHL GM. There is no question. He was already flirting with that idea in Detroit, signing Justin Abdelkader, signing Jonathan Ericsson. He is past his expiration date. You can sit there and be like, well, this move wasn't so bad. It's literally the example of like, oh, this one's not so bad. You know the SpongeBob meme with Gary, and it's like or with Patrick, and like he was having to change diapers, like it was the episode where they adopted something, and it's just open the fridge, open the window. It's just a pile of shit. That is Ken Holland's tenure with the Edmonton Oilers. It is literally that meme.
Yeah.
Like I don't get how you get another GM job after some of those contract signings. It's pretty nuts.
You're friends with Wayne Gretzky. There you go.
Well, but is Wayne even indirectly involved with the team anymore? Like the dude's on TNT.
I think he left to take the TNT job, right?
Yeah, he saw that trash fire of the organization was. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk about hockey with Biz. I'm gonna go do that. Like that's that
again. Paying Duncan Keith 5.5 this year and next. Tyson Barrie at 4.5 isn't brutal, but he can't play defense. Yep. Cody Ceci at 3.25 for 3 more years after this. God, man.
Wait, it was a 4-year deal on Ceci?
Yeah.
Oh my. I was like, for some reason I was like, yeah, 3 by 3.5. That makes sense. That's something I would do.
Yeah, and again, he might He's not the worst defenseman on that team, but
I mean, that's not saying a lot. Every defenseman on that team is dog shit. They traded one of their best.
aside from Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard, but Bouchard's still 21. So,
hey,
as good
Ethan
as he's
Bear
been.
would help that team.
Oh
Wouldn't
yeah.
he? How good would Ethan Bear look right now?
He would be their fucking second best defenseman, probably.
Man.
God damn.
Now,
Yeah, that trade though, that kills me. And the fact that they cut their I believe when Ethan Bear got traded, they also cut that Indigenous hockey youth program that they had at the time. That was like, hey, we're gonna do this like for you because you know all that shit's happening. Like you're gonna help give back for the community. And then he got
like,
traded.
just
like, a
think
week later.
about that, though.
Yeah.
Like, I get it that apparently there was some abuse that was there hurtled towards Ethan Bear's way. But think about all that's happened in Canada over the past year plus
Oh, yeah.
regarding the abuse and all the stuff involving Indigenous people. And then you have Ethan Bear, who can literally be like this front-facing spokesperson for change while he's an Edmonton Oiler. And you fucking trade him?
like a week after they made the announcement for the Indigenous sports program. He's gonna be like a part of it, like a big major thing of it, and he gets traded. And I'm like, that fucking sucks.
Like, I heard some people be like, oh, he wanted to leave. You do whatever the hell you have to do to make Ethan Bear stay. If Ethan Bear doesn't want to stay in Edmonton, that's a problem with Edmonton and the Oilers organization. Prove me wrong. Speaking of problems in Canadian organizations, now I want to mention this because we talked about the Oilers firing a head coach. We get to talk about Montreal next. But this is from Locked On Senators on Twitter. DJ Smith is now the longest-serving head coach in Canada. He's been the bench boss for 169 games since leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he still hasn't coached a full 82-game season as head coach of the Sens. That is absurd. That is how much turnover and turmoil there has been amongst Canadian teams. But it brings us to the Habs. Head coach Dom Ducharme fired. 23, 46, and 14 in the regular season. He, of course, was 13 and 6 in the playoffs after their cup run. This comes from Cap Friendly. He was in the first year of a 3-year contract with the Habs that paid him roughly $1.7 million a year. The Habs are also still paying Claude Julien $5 million a year until the end of this season. Oof.
Next coach, anyone who can speak fucking French, apparently.
So, this move, I'll say, wasn't overly surprising because whenever a GM changes, a GM is going to bring in their coach. That's just how it works. Martin St. Louis, Lightning great, Stanley Cup champion, is the new interim head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Martin St. Louis has no major coaching experience whatsoever. He was essentially, I believe, coaching 13-year-olds?
He was coaching Pee-wee hockey. They picked up a Pee-wee hockey coach and said,
He
hey,
sounds French, dude.
here-
That's it. That's it.
You
He
know
is.
what it was?
He is French.
You know what it was?
Saint-Louis.
They couldn't get Vinny Lecavalier, so they went with St. Louis instead.
Well, so here's the thing, right? MSL, he's from Laval, 46 years old now, which is insane. But, and despite the fact that at his press conference, it looks like he hadn't been touching up on his French for that long. If there was ever a time, now I'll say this right out of the gates, I like this.
Yeah.
I like this. I don't hate it. If there was ever a time to try something different and to just see, what do you got? This is the time.
Why
This
not?
is a team that is on pace to be historically bad. They are already historically bad. Again, we talked about it last week. They are on pace to be worse than the Detroit Red Wings from a few seasons ago, than the Buffalo Sabres who were tanking for McEichel. And I know what I said, and again, it was the McEichel draft, McDavid and Jack Eichel, because we're creative in the hockey community. Why not try this? Sometimes former players are horrible coaches, sometimes they're Rod Brindamore. You look at the press conference, and I don't see how anybody couldn't at least be excited to see what's going to happen. Arpon Basu mentioned this. If anything this team needs right now, it's to have fun. When these guys were in Pee-wee, they had fun. So I'm probably the most qualified guy right now. That is a quote from St. Louis during the press conference. He also went on about his experience as a player of being restricted within a box, having to play a certain style, having to play a certain system, and mentioning, I thought essentially he was saying, I think that was bullshit, and that's not what I'm going to do. I don't want to restrict my top skilled players by saying, no, you have to do something this way. I want to let the guys go out there and do what they do best. At the very least, Marty will provide that little bit of extra freedom for these guys to show off their skills, have a little bit more fun down the stretch. And sure, player coaches don't always work out tremendously. Sometimes you do need that balance between a good player coach and a system guy that's able to make things work. But this is the type of outside-the-box move that I think could pay off. I mean, is it better to try Marty St. Louis, or do you want to bring in Guy Boucher? You know, which, I mean, Guy Boucher in the past has been a successful NHL head coach for the Lightning and for the Senators. But do you bring in a Guy Boucher? Do you bring in Dave Tippett, for God's sakes? Like, who do you bring in? Or, out of the established guard, do you try something new? And I like the direction from Montreal's leadership now to try something new with Marty St. Louis, and I do think it could work out.
I'm all I didn't know where you're
I know you normally wait to give Endo a chance, and Endo's just off in his own world.
Well, yeah, and I also didn't know if you were going to continue or not. I've jumped in prematurely a couple times today, but I'm with I mean, just keep getting different people in. Like, it's odd that he has no coaching experience, but at the same time, who gives a fuck? The team's bad. It doesn't matter. Here's your experience. There you go. Yeah. It's, huge part of it is the whole French Canadian thing. I wish they would just get rid of that, but I'm not going to stop them from restricting themselves. But yeah, it's the more new people filtering in. I guess he's not completely new, but at least in the coaching side of things, he's, it's whatever. New ideas it's never a bad thing.
Now, it is worth noting as well. Vinny Cavalier, Endo mentioned him. His name is out there potentially for an assistant GM spot, which would be
of course
very, very interesting if that were to happen. But in a sense, why not? Also worth noting here, though, this is from Stu Cowan on Twitter. The Habs now have a GM in Kent Hughes with no experience in that position and a head coach with no experience in that position. The last time they did that was with Réjean Houllier and Mario Tremblay. Hopefully for the Habs, it turns out better this time. So I had to look it up, and this was the 95 to 97 span for the Habs. They went 71, 63, and 25 in that time, so not great. And they went 3-8 in the playoffs. They did make the playoffs both of those years, despite how bad the records were. So it's not a completely unprecedented move, but at the same time, again, still somewhat risky, but I think it's the right move for them right now. Why not? And then, yeah, if it doesn't work, and the players don't really seem to react well to it, which I can't imagine they wouldn't. I mean, Cole Caulfield scored his second goal of the season finally in Marty's first game behind the bench.
Lol! Hey! Missed that. That's a medium elite Cole Caulfield, future guaranteed 40 goal scorer Cole Caulfield. Yeah. Anyway. Take that, Habs fans.
He's going to be an elite one first liner, starting line with that new with St. Louis as his coach. Watch Caulfield just absolutely just light it up, like first game with St. Louis as coach.
They already played with St. Louis.
Yeah, they already played and he got the goal.
See what I mean? I legit thought that they didn't play their first game with St. Louis yet.
No, yeah, he
played
did
last
just
night.
say that.
I did.
Listen,
I did.
I'm
Endo, you're lending too much credibility to the people that argue that you zone out too much on this podcast.
People say that. I'm sorry. I fucking work a lot. Okay. You know what? I didn't come in to be attacked. This is my month. I'm joking.
All right, Anson. Let's move on.
Oh man.
Goodness, we won't talk about that on today's show. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Habs. I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Oilers as well, certainly. But, yeah, we'll see. And again, hey, if it doesn't work out, they do have the possibility of obviously just making a move in the offseason, depending on who's available. So,